lose existence.
This is robbery right here.
Andrade Cien Almas. It's academic from here.
No.
Hammerlock DDT on Johnny Gargano. Almas
Cien,
with
man,
the
come on.
unos, dos. No! Unbelievable! Unbelievable!
Look at the face.
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
Los Mariachis Luchadores.
And I'm Daredevil.
And today we are coming to you from January 27th, 2018, the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's NXT TakeOver Philadelphia. Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship.
God, we talk about some matches that are like freak accidents, right? Like how so many things have to line up for certain matches to happen in certain points in time. Johnny Gargano and Andrade, this match should have never happened.
Nope.
And that just makes it that much more special because thank God it did.
Yes, and not only did it happen, but it went completely against type.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
This is not the kind of match you would get in an NXT main event in 2018.
Yeah, it's just not something that you would think about, you know, especially considering this match literally opened a takeover. What, like 3 takeovers prior to this one?
Yeah.
Brooklyn 3. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so it's so interesting, again, that and that's one of the things I love about our list, right, is that these lightning in a bottle, these things that should have never happened. And we have so many instances like that on our list, and this is just another one, and maybe one of the best ones, right? And so we'll talk about the ranking obviously later, but just a couple of things before we get into it. First of all, on commentary we have Mauro Ranallo and Percy Watson. No Nigel McGuinness, who did not call this show, unfortunately. But Percy Watson may be the first time on the show.
I would venture to guess.
Yeah.
When have we had Mauro? When have we had Mauro?
We've had Mauro.
We had him for the Cruiserweight Classic.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe an NXT match too. I don't know. I'd have to look. But
maybe he might have been on the DIY revival.
Yes, that sounds like
yeah.
a possibility.
I don't remember.
But
so
yeah,
long
he's
ago.
been on the show before. The referee for this match is the ever problematic Drake Wirtz.
Rev!
Yeah, so moving right along from that, I do want to say there was a great opening package for this takeover. Did you guys watch this?
Yes.
It's in Philadelphia, and it's narrated by, of course, Paul Heyman. And it was just a really, really neat, like, it got me so hyped for watching this match.
It was like, hey, guess what? Wrestling, real wrestling,
exactly,
is back in Philadelphia.
Hey, network, I'm Paul Heyman, and I dare you to throw me off the air. We're going to do better wrestling in Philadelphia. I'm writing Monday Night Raw right now.
It's been such a fun season for us so far. And this obviously is episode 67, but I hope you guys were able to listen to our little mini-sode last week where we ranked for the first time by itself an episode dedicated solely to ranking Undertaker and Mankind Hell in a Cell. If you liked where it landed, thank you so much. If you didn't like it, I'm so sorry.
I get it.
I'm not.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. And, it was a conglomeration of thoughts and hearts and minds of so many people in the wrestling community. And we appreciate everyone who did reach out to us. But, man, what a fun time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that episode's going to set the record for most audio drops in a single episode.
I hope so.
It was a really, really fun time to rank it and a great experience going through that match in general. And again, a huge thank you to everyone that participated there. And if you want to help us rank things, if you want to tell us matches that you think should be on the list, if you thought Hell in a Cell doesn't deserve to, definitely let us know. You can reach us on email at lastmatchstanding@gmail.com, and definitely follow us on Facebook and Twitter at LastMatchCast. We want all the feedback we could possibly get. Something that was awesome that happened. We got a new patron this week. Brandon, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah, we met you at Squared Circle Expo, and so I love that. Like, Squared Circle was such a fun experience for us, and to make sort of these lasting connections has been a real treat. So Brandon, welcome aboard. We are more than happy to have you, man.
Yeah, we'll catch you on season 3 of Patreon Trivia.
That's absolutely right. We are neck deep in that season 2, and it's been a blast. So if you're interested in hearing some of those patron trivias, definitely you can unlock those with some Patreon access. But also, we'll do some main feed drops of that stuff as well.
So we'll have a championship match coming up here on the main feed, just to give you a little teaser as to what it's like to listen to our trivia episodes over on Patreon. Look for that here in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. But here we are. We are nearing the halfway point of season 4, and it's been a season full of really iconic moments and really fun matches, and that streak continues today. The reason why this match is one that we're doing right now at this time is, one, it performed incredibly well on Twitter and Patreon polls. Like, let's be very clear about that. But also, we think the timing is great considering a certain wrestler in this match and his recent arrival in AEW.
Yes.
Yeah, and he had an excellent match to kick off his AEW career against Matt Sydal.
These are things I don't know yet.
I thought it was Matt something.
Matt something, yeah. Well, Matt Third Eye, whatever he's going by now.
Right.
But no, seriously. Looks in great form. Debuted a brand new finishing move. I'm really excited for his AEW career, and hopefully maybe even beyond. I'd love to see him go back to New Japan. Maybe have a run with the IWGP Heavyweight Belt.
That'd be cool.
So what is he going by in AEW?
Andrade El Idolo.
Yes. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know what name they were using for him. He's Andrade Cien Almas here in this NXT TakeOver match, and it's really exciting to focus on the career of his career now and what the future holds for him. But the path getting to NXT TakeOver Philadelphia is one that's also a fascinating story.
I do have a bit of a story for you in. We did touch on Johnny Gargano, and I'll get to him in just a little bit. But let's go do a little deep dive with our friend Andrade.
Let's do it.
Wrestling dynasties are sort of few and far between here in the United States. You have your McMahons, your Rhodes families, Funks, Von Erichs, but nothing close to what you have in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There you have the Guerreros. La Familia Alvarado, probably the largest, the Alvarados. But you also have the Mendoza family, the Garzas, many, many more. And these aren't just 3 generations of sons and daughters. These are entire families, brothers, cousins, uncles, dozens of family members could end up in the wrestling business from these families. One such family was the Andrade family. Manuel Alfonso Andrade Oropeza was born in Gomez, Palacio, Durango, Mexico, and is the son of Jose Andrade Celas, who wrestles as Brillante. His grandfather, Jose Andrade, wrestled under the name El Moro. His uncles, Diamante, Moro III, Pentagon, Pentagoncito, and Espiritu Magico. All of them Andrades. And also, one of his cousins currently works as Espanto Jr. Due to the secretive nature of Lucha Libre, where the real names of masked wrestlers are often not revealed at all, it's highly possible that more of Andrade's siblings or cousins could be professional wrestlers, and we just wouldn't know. With his family so deeply tied into the industry, Andrade grew up training. Just, goofing around at first, but soon seriously. And how soon? He debuted in his family's promotion under the ring name Brillante Jr., in honor of his father, at the age of 14. During his time there, he wrestled 2 Lucha de Apuestas matches, one against his uncle, forcing him to shave his head.
Man, I wish I had these family stories.
Seriously?
Can you imagine eating dinner with this family? I love it.
He began wrestling for CMLL in 2007 under his father's name, but quickly transitioned to La Sombra. And a lot of people know Andrade as La Sombra because that's how he made his name with that character. He gained notoriety very quickly in CMLL, teaming with guys like Mystico, and the company's top face at the time. And in short order, he won gold via the Mexican National Trios Championships, the NWA World Welterweight Championship, and the CMLL World Tag Team Championships as a triple champion. In 2010, La Sombra traveled to Japan to compete in New Japan's Best of the Super Juniors tournament, where he defeated the likes of Tiger Mask and Jushin Thunder Liger, though he did not advance to the semifinals of that tournament.
Bunch of nobodies. Golly.
Later that year,
Who'd he ever beat?
Yeah, really. Later that year, he was involved in a 14-man Lucha de Apuestas steel cage match. Let me say that one more time.
One more for me, please.
14-man Lucha de Apuestas steel cage match, where the two final men remaining in the cage would have to wrestle to keep their mask. La Sombra was one of the final two and defeated Olympico to keep his mask.
So let me ask you this question. Would it be better to not be in the final two? Do you get to keep your mask if you don't make it to the final two?
Absolutely.
That
You
makes
just wanna
no
escape.
sense to me.
You just want to escape.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it. You don't want to be the last two
Right.
standing.
No,
Okay.
you want to be out. of there.
That's nuts.
It's crazy. I wish I could have seen that.
I want to watch it.
La Sombra returned to New Japan in April of 2012 to take part in the 2012 New Japan Cup. After defeating Yoshihashi in the first round match, he was eliminated from the tournament in the second round by Hiroki Goto.
I know that name.
One of the most notable rivalries of his career in CMLL was against his on and off partner, Volador Jr., whom he wrestled alongside in several tournaments before Volador Jr. turned on him.
What a bastard.
That son of a bitch.
In 2013, he unmasked his rival in yet another Lucha de Apuestas victory. This match developed a sort of unintentional double turn as the crowd rallied behind Volador Jr., forcing La Sombra into a new role as a heel. And in my opinion, this is where he shines. I mean, Andrade is such an excellent heel.
Mm-hmm.
With his newfound persona, La Sombra formed a formidable faction called Los Ingobernables. In May 2013, La Sombra defeated Shinsuke Nakamura in Mexico City to win the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, becoming the first Mexican to hold that belt. He competed in New Japan's 2013 and 2014 World Tag Leagues alongside Los Ingobernables de Japón leader Tetsuya Naito. In February of 2016, Andrade debuted for WWE NXT under the name Andrade Cien Almas, after working with former CMLL trainer Sarah Stock to improve his English-speaking skills. Andrade captured victories over Ty Dillinger and Bobby Roode before losing in the first round of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and taking out his partner Cedric Alexander, effectively turning heel.
Best thing he ever did.
With the guidance of Zelina Vega, Andrade set his sights on the NXT Championship, and on his way to the top, he defeated fellow rising star Johnny Gargano twice. After these victories, he positioned himself in a match with NXT champion Drew McIntyre. Fortunately for Andrade,
He won.
Drew McIntyre suffered a bicep tear during the match, leading to an unexpected Andrade NXT Championship reign.
Yeah, how about that? That was NXT TakeOver War Games, the first War Games. That was
In Houston.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was there.
You were there?
I was there. Yeah.
I was there via network feed.
Yeah.
Weren't we all?
Well, Landon, I watched that show on your couch. So.
You sure did.
No one expected Almas to win in that match against McIntyre. And boy, am I glad he did. For both of them, really. But
Absolutely, yeah. I from what I heard, that was a mid-match call. I think they called it in the ring. Drew knew that his bicep was gone, and they were like, "Okay, well,
You have to beat me.
That is crazy.
That could be totally wrong, but that's the way I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Gargano, as we've covered on the show before, a national treasure of independent professional wrestling scene for a decade.
Johnny Wrestling.
He is Johnny Wrestling. Since arriving in NXT in 2015, Gargano has captivated fans through his partnership with Ciampa in DIY and his ability to tell incredible stories in the ring, a la Shawn Michaels or Chris Jericho. When we last left DIY on this show, they had just won the NXT Tag Team Championships from the Revival at NXT TakeOver Toronto.
That match sounds familiar.
After a short reign, they were torn apart by Paul Ellering's newly formed Authors of Pain and dropped the belts in dramatic fashion. Upon several unsuccessful attempts to regain the gold, Tommaso Ciampa turns on Johnny, destroying, for now, the beloved DIY.
Psycho Killer.
One of the most famous moments in the history of NXT, right? NXT TakeOver Chicago. It's one of those one of the very first times that I remember where they did something very, very smart in production, and that is they put the little plate with the copyright at the bottom of the screen, and so that was the sign that it was over.
Show's over.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, but it was after that moment that Ciampa attacks Gargano, and so incredible.
It's funny you mentioned that because the only other time I remember them doing that was at TakeOver Revolution, where Sami Zayn finally wins the NXT title, and then Kevin Owens comes out to congratulate him. Like, Titan Sports, all rights reserved, and the screen's about to start fading to black, and that's whenever Kevin Owens does the apron powerbomb.
Well, no, they actually do it after this match we're about to cover, and we'll get there, but they do it again at TakeOver Philadelphia.
Yeah, so this thing is so funny because the first time, because I watched that show live, I missed the post-match betrayal.
Yeah.
Because I saw the
Yeah,
WWE 2018 all rights reserved. Like,
all right, that's it. Turn it off.
I'll see it on Wednesday. Turned it off. It wasn't until I checked Twitter an hour later, like, oh my God, what happened? Oh my God, Samoa Joe showed up? What?
And could you imagine living in a world without Twitter, and you would have to wait until Wednesday to figure that out?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question: is wrestling better or worse with Twitter?
Worse, way worse.
I don't
worse.
know.
And no, I really think it's worse because the best times in wrestling for me were the big surprises. You do not get surprises in the wrestling industry anymore, period.
That's
you
not
just
true.
don't. Because everyone was talking about Aleister Black went to AEW. Oh my God, look at Twitter. Look at Twitter. Aleister Black's in AEW. And then he shows up and is like, oh, okay, well, there he is. How much better would that have been if we would have had no clue?
He's the one that broke the news.
Because we were the ones who were sitting around like, okay, well, surely he had a 90-day compete clause.
Nope.
No compete clause. Like, there's no way he's going to show up. And then you see all over Twitter, Aleister Black is talking about this and that and this and that. If there was no Twitter, imagine what that moment would have been.
Yeah, I can't tell
and
you
countless others.
Right, exactly. I don't really remember the last time I was genuinely surprised. Even like one of the big surprise moments that come to my mind is AJ Styles when he debuted in the Rumble. But even then, there had been rumors all weekend that he would be there, and so it was never a
same with
totally
Edge.
out of left
Same
field.
with Edge.
Yeah.
Edge's return in the Rumble. That's one that sort of transcended the rumors because he came out and I literally cried.
Well, funny thing about
and the fact that we were there, you know,
Edge made a surprising return 10 years apart at the Rumble.
Yeah,
The
that's
2010 Royal Rumble, we had no idea he was going to be there, and he was like number 5, I think. And I remember being so surprised, and he talked about what he had to go through to not give that away.
Yeah.
He drove to the show himself an hour after the show started. He was immediately met by one of the trainers who put a towel over his head to lead him through like the back of the entrance. He didn't park where the wrestlers parked. He parked in the parking lot. Someone had to come meet him with a towel, and they walked to the side entrance of the building.
There's really similar, interesting footage when the Hardys came back for the ladder match.
That's
at
right.
Mania.
Nobody
That's
had
right.
any idea they were gonna
33.
come out.
Yeah, and there's a really there's footage you can watch of them like putting towels over their head and like totally sneaking around, and that's awesome. You know, like that is to create that moment is totally worth going through that trouble.
And that's not to say that moments like that don't happen because the Hardys return at WrestleMania. Absolutely. Huge shocker. Christian Cage debuting in AEW.
Surprise.
I had no
Nobody
idea.
had a
That was
clue
a
that was gonna
genuine
happen.
surprise. But there are very few and far between, and I do think it's Twitter and social media in general that has been to the detriment of the wrestling industry. I
feel
honestly
like
do.
the older guys like an Edge or like a Christian are going to be smart enough to not talk about it, not put it out there and spoil it. It's the younger guys that are like, it'll be a big deal if I say I'm going to the other company. But
I don't know.
It'll be a bigger deal
I don't know.
if you're a legitimate surprise.
People are going to freak out and talk about you after you debut regardless.
Yeah.
So why ruin that moment for people?
Agreed. I don't know.
But yeah, I'll get off my high horse about it.
Yeah, all that to say is there was genuine surprise when Ciampa attacks Gargano.
Oh, yeah, it was
Absolutely.
heartbreaking. It's
General-
like,
like-
you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
At TakeOver Brooklyn 3, Johnny Gargano is booked to open the show across from the red-hot Andrade Cien Almas. Andrade is able to pick up the win after Zelina Vega tosses in a DIY T-shirt to distract Johnny Gargano. Clearly, some unfinished business lingering in the mind of Johnny Gargano. This match, by the way, is incredible in its own right. I rewatched it before I rewatched the Philadelphia match. It's fantastic.
Yep. No surprise there. No surprise there.
Gargano had a rematch with Almas on the October 11th episode of NXT, but lost again after Vega again distracted him by wearing a DIY T-shirt.
She's evil. I don't like her.
This is Johnny Gargano's opportunity to move past DIY. After experiencing a slew of tough losses after the DIY breakup, Johnny started over. He had to claw his way back from the bottom of the card, and he became the first man to pin Aleister Black to earn his opportunity. This is Johnny's chance to prove himself and to everyone else that he belongs, that he needs. This win is an understatement.
I fully agree. And at this point, it's Johnny Gargano is the heart of NXT, but he's got to prove that he's earned it and that he can wear that stripe. Because after the Ciampa attack, you're absolutely right. He just goes on a losing streak.
Yeah.
Things aren't going his way at all. But they make constant comparisons in this match on commentary to him and Daniel Bryan. And they're not bad comparisons.
No, not at all. They're very similar.
Yeah, in terms of Daniel Bryan crawling his way up to the WWE Championship and Gargano making himself a viable contender for the NXT Championship. Really interesting parallels in that regard. But it makes for such a fascinating match. No one is hotter in NXT than Andrade. And no one wants... the fans want more than anything to see Gargano reach the peak of the NXT mountain. And so those two sort of conflicting ideas make for a tremendous story being told in this contest in Philadelphia.
It's really great when the entire crowd doesn't want to see either guy lose.
Yeah. And that's what we had.
Yeah. And it wasn't in a face versus face situation.
No.
It meant that you had a great face making it like telling a great story and a great heel that people wanted to watch defend that title.
Yeah, they wanted him to continue.
Just really respecting the two abilities in the ring, which I think is fantastic.
And that's where we kind of get to what I was expecting from a main event in NXT from 2018 versus what we got.
Right.
Because I'm like, this is going to be very, very quick, spot fest, a shit ton of near falls. No, it's not. It's like, what, 33 minutes?
Yeah, it's just a little under 33 minutes, and it's some good wrestling.
The first, 17 or 18 is just counter chain grappling.
What I love here is we get, these takeover entrances. Almas comes out. He's got the masked mariachi band.
Oh, I fucking love that.
Which is just a nice tip. I like it a lot.
It's a big fight feel.
It is. It's absolutely a big fight feel. And I don't know how you guys felt about Vega with Andrade. I thought it was great. I thought it was a brilliant pairing.
Well, when he first kind of showed up, he was having fun matches, but the crowd just didn't take to him. The minute she walked out and became his manager, he became red hot. Like, he's the top guy.
He needed a little something extra, and she gave it to him. She
Yeah.
gave him everything she had every single night. She was the perfect manager. And the thing is, she can go. She hits her Karanas on the outside, and she, I really enjoyed that pairing a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say two things about Andrade. One of them is what a great head of hair.
Yes.
And the other is, man, do I not enjoy when people wear pants with belt loops and don't wear a belt.
Yeah. Oh, boy. That bothered me. That legitimately bothered me.
It's totally meaningless, but I had to mention it because it was something that I
what's
noticed
the point?
the entire match. But Gargano has debuted his new theme, Rebel Heart, which is a wonderful song. I would just like to say, it's a great entrance theme for him, I think.
Also loved his Daredevil themed attire.
Oh, when Johnny's music hit, I got so excited. It all came flooding back to me, this match. I mean, it's something special. It's in large part to what happens between the ropes, but also because of the story that they're telling with Johnny Gargano.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It is. And something that I really appreciate is they show the new NXT signee in the crowd, Candice LeRae, who's,
the wife of Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, and is not unfamiliar with this list of ours as well. And Candice LeRae is there, and what I appreciate a lot is that they don't overdo it with her in the crowd.
They
don't
like,
show her.
Look, Candice LeRae's here. She's cheering on her husband, Johnny Gargano.
And they don't shoot back to her again.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is great, because we've seen it 100 times before where they try to play this emotional angle, and so they show this poor person that, at least Candice LeRae's a wrestler, but sometimes it's not a wrestler. It's someone's actual real life, somebody that isn't really in the business, and they cut to them reacting. The person that I think of all the time with this is The Rock's mom.
Yeah.
I've seen her react to so many things. I just feel so bad that they keep a camera on her during all of his matches.
I always think of the story of Steve Austin's inebriated brother giving her shit during the WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
main event.
Stu and Helen Hart.
Stu and Helen Hart.
Come on.
Oh, so you mean Scared Stu? Other one I always think of is, now the footage has been cut off of Peacock / the network, but if you want to see it, you can watch it on Beyond the Mat. Mick Foley's wife and kids.
Yeah.
At Royal Rumble 99.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Helen lately. I heard she went into an antique shop and they kept her.
That's the one I was thinking. It's still so funny. Oh, man.
The getting into the match, the hesitation in Johnny's eyes at the start is so on point. He's calculated. He's determined to start this match off right. And early on, Andrade out-wrestles him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He embarrasses him. He's just like, everything that Johnny's got, like, nope, you're not as good as me. Go back to the locker room and give me a better contender.
And what a really smart way to start the match, because Gargano's entering this match with so much doubt based off of what's happened to him over the last 6 months and some change, right? And so to play that up and give him a reason to continue to sort of doubt, like, do I deserve to be here in this moment? Really, really smart way to start the match.
Well, one thing I really enjoyed about the match was just like the first 10 minutes is just a counter chain wrestling clinic.
Speaking of the chain wrestling, there's a callback to their first match.
Yep.
From a few takeovers ago. Gargano and Andrade start chain wrestling, and Johnny catches one of those head scissor choke things, right? And everyone's just like, you kick out of it, and then you stand up, and then you're both facing off. But Johnny doesn't let go of the head scissors. And in their first match, Andrade does this to Johnny. And you can just see Johnny's face as he does this. He's just like, I've been studying. I remember. I'm ready. I know I deserve to be here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love a good callback. But as I said at the top, and I'm going to say it again, this was not what anybody, including the crowd, was expecting. Because they're kind of quiet the first few minutes because they're just waiting for them to hit second gear. And they make them wait.
Which is a good thing. Because when they get there, it means more.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm sitting there watching, and I don't get me wrong. The modern style of wrestling, sometimes I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Sometimes I'm like, are we going to do 30 more near falls before we get to finish? Like, I mean, I don't hate near falls, but I don't like when they're overdone. And I feel like a lot of times in NXT and even in AEW, they overdo them.
Well, and this match has a little bit of that, but I don't feel like it's overdone.
Well,
they
wait till the very end to do it.
It's perfect the way that they sort of play it out. And you're right. It's easy to get carried away, Paul.
The first near fall is not until 12 minutes into this match.
Yeah.
The first pin attempt is 12 minutes in.
It's an interesting pace, and I think it's paced really well. Kind of both of your points is I don't think they overdo it here in this instance. But you're right. We sort of live in an era where it's easy to overdo it.
I thought it was interesting that the crowd was pretty quiet for the first few minutes, but once they start picking things up around the 10-minute mark, that crowd picks up.
Yeah,
and the chants start going, and then the pace increases, and then we start getting into more of that more modern, but they still kind of hold back until the last 5 or 6 minutes, and that's when they go full throttle, and I'm like, that's how it should be.
Johnny Wrestling sort of is the first one to take a little bit of control, but he doesn't get it for very long because he misses a flip senton off the apron onto the floor.
That was just heartbreaking to watch, too.
It looked awful, and Andrade is the one that takes over control after that, and he's got all the momentum.
Does Andrade know how to sink in a headlock or
Man,
what?
oh man.
That thing was brutal, and it was a headlock.
It's a fucking bulldog choke right there. He's trying to kill him.
Yeah, and Almas keeps that control, and it's tight, right? It is a tight control over Gargano until Johnny is able to do that sort of seated roundhouse kick to create some distance. But what they do here in this moment is something that I think is great. Is they do they leave you with a little bit. It's kind of like that moment where they take off the not in this match, but like in general in wrestling when they remove the stuff from the announce table, but they don't use it yet. They go back to it later because what happens is Gargano gets tied up in the Tree of Woe, and Andrade goes for that double stomp while he's in that Tree of Woe, and he misses.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind because he misses.
Love that.
Yeah,
I love that because after he misses, Johnny hits a belly-to-belly overhead into the turnbuckle.
Yeah, no big deal. Like, just totally throws him full speed.
I'm going to break your fucking neck.
It was nuts.
But you talked about a couple of things, right? We talked about Johnny Gargano's his missing that flip senton. So at this point in the match, Gargano's back is shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He tries to lift Andrade in a chain of reversals, and he can't do it.
Cannot do it, no.
But that doesn't deter him in the least. Gargano keeps finding ways to deliver offense from a grounded position, which is just genius if you think about it. Because he's already shown you that he can't lift, and he doesn't.
No. One thing I really do enjoy is when he finally gets his like flurry of kicks and he does his enziguri. Like, here we go. Slingshot spear by Johnny, followed by... You know, whenever I watch wrestlers do stuff like this, I'm like, I bet he got shin splints from that, but it was still pretty cool. That is the moonsault that misses, but Andrade lands on his feet and immediately does a standing moonsault.
When you're a performer and you are performing a moonsault, and in midair you notice your opponent has rolled out of range, and in midair adjust to not only land on your feet but hit a standing moonsault after that, you have mastered your craft, sir.
Well, like, he doesn't even pause. Feet hits it, he immediately does it. Like, he used the momentum. So I'm thinking maybe he didn't get shin splints because he immediately went. He discharged all the kinetic energy.
That is the moment where I thought, this man, champion, right? Like, deserves. I mean, like, it. And Andrade, like, I was super into NXT at this moment, right? So I was keeping up with everything. I was watching all these takeovers. I was watching weekly NXT.
Yeah, this is peak NXT.
And Andrade, I was just amazed by.
Oh, yeah.
And it continued with moments like that.
Well,
his ability is
but
crazy.
you also had Johnny Gargano across from him doing crazy, innovative. The tilt-a-whirl complete shot from a springboard.
Yeah, how about
that was so fucking cool.
It's a diving move, no need to lift them, innovative and unpredictable. Incredible.
And it's something that he does. I mean, when they announce his weight during his entrance, he weighs in 199 pounds, right? So add in a bad back to be facing to try to be the NXT heavyweight champion. It's a compelling story to watch him go against the much larger Andrade.
Oh yeah, because you cut weight and you injure your back early on to a long championship match.
Another thing that I really loved about this match is these guys are constantly learning from each other. I mean, this isn't the first time that they've squared up, but anytime one of them goes back to the well to do something that they've already done in this match, the other has the counter the second time. And it's very deliberate that they go back and then there's a counter. I absolutely love seeing that play out.
My favorite examples of that is Andrade goes for the hammerlock DDT off the top rope. Johnny reverses it, and then I just completely lost track of how many reversals they do in a row.
Yeah, this is the moment
It's
where
ridiculous.
I was like, I need to make sure that my playback speed is not like 1.5 or times 2 because
normal.
it legitimately looked like it was in fast forward.
They did, and I started to write them down, and I just lost all track. And I'm like, I don't want to run it back.
Yeah,
I kind of want to
just-
keep it like that.
Just this next sequence, because I wrote down the sequence because I want you to sort of picture it happening in real time really quickly because it was beautiful. So Andrade does go for that draping hammerlock DDT, but it's reversed, and Gargano is able to hit a super kick through Andrade's
Through his legs, yeah.
right? And so Gargano then tries to go for a sunset flip powerbomb. It's missed. Andrade hits his drive-through double knees, goes for it a second time. Gargano reverses it, goes for a slingshot spear. Andrade reverses it. He is able to hit an inverted tornado DDT, and Gargano kicks out. So that happens back to back to back to back. It takes maybe 30 seconds for the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's just beautiful to watch. And this is the point where I'm like, all right, now they're really picking this pace up, and the crowd is really getting hot.
And when you have reversals like this and just the way that these two guys are able to move, it takes an exceptional job as a cameraman. And I have to commend the crew on this one. I thought the camera work in this match was exceptional.
Oh, absolutely.
We get frames and angles that we don't normally get, and I really appreciated it.
Well,
There was... Go ahead, Paul.
I'll say it's because you don't. Well, as much as I like to praise him every now and then, is because you don't have the frantic Kevin Dunn. I want a different camera angle every 3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. But off of your point, Landon, there's a great shot right at the end of this sequence where both men are on the apron. And it's shot from underneath them, like right underneath them below the apron.
You don't see that.
No, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It just really like increased the moment of these guys are giving us everything they have. And off of that apron, Gargano is able to hit a slingshot DDT onto the apron. Andrade goes to the outside. He's, sitting up against the barricade. And that's when Mauro says, champion's advantage, but you wouldn't think so looking at the way Andrade looks now.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was great.
And then Percy just says, Gargano has to get him back in the ring. And I'm like, yes, build that up. I feel like that never happens in wrestling. They never talk about that. Come on.
And you can totally, sort of time travel in this moment because as the referee is counting both men out on the outside, the whole crowd is chanting 10 with every count. And I was just like, man, that feels like a long time ago.
Man, Ty Dillinger, over as hell.
Over as hell.
That was the first year he was number 10 in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, which is the best.
And they did it the next year, and he's like, I quit.
When Gargano avoids the knees in the corner for like the third time,
Right.
and hits the lawn dart,
Love
I
it.
thought that was it. And then when Andrade comes back and gets rolled up, I thought that was it.
I did too. I'm like, oh, the most devastating move in Raw wrestling, the roll up.
And honestly, I almost teared up a little bit when Gargano finds it within himself to use his DIY move.
Yes.
After everything he went through, right here on the biggest stage in the biggest match of his life, he's going to pull everything that he has, even if it means going back to that painful place.
I love it because they even call it out. The DIY kick by Johnny Gargano.
And it wasn't enough.
Nope.
Andrade kicks out. We're about 22 minutes into this match now, and things are getting into that. This is really good.
Yes.
Like there's like on a meter, right? Like if you're star ratings or whatever, like we're getting there, right? At this point.
Oh, yeah.
And Almas hangs Gargano on the middle rope. And that double stomp that he missed earlier, he hits this time onto the ring apron.
I've never seen that in my life.
Me neither. It was at that point that I looked to my right and is with Jen and I said, this match is really good.
And it sets up Andrade to finally hit those double knees in the corner.
And when Johnny Wrestling kicks out, the camera to see the reaction of both Almas and Zelina Vega on the outside, touch of class. They are stunned beyond belief.
And I love the call that Mauro makes here because Percy's like, that's gonna spell victory, and then Morrow says, Gargano says no, and I'm like, thank you, Morrow.
He gets
you.
it. He gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The crowd, when Johnny gets in the Gargano escape,
Ooh, boy.
erupted.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm getting chills.
Yeah, and then we get the fight forever chant.
And Vega forces the break.
Forces the break.
So throughout this
Drags
whole
him to
match,
the ropes.
she's been fairly tame. Like, she's just sort of let them go for 25 minutes.
She's been coaching him. You can hear her being
Yeah, you
like,
can.
Which
I love.
Andrade, you have to keep distance. Or
I love a vocal manager.
I love that you can hear her telling him exactly what to do. Keep your distance. Keep him off of his game. Take out his legs. Like, she's literally telling him exactly what to do, and he's doing it.
And at this point, we get something that I've never seen in professional wrestling, and I don't know that I've ever seen it since. We get a suicide dive to Andrade's back.
Yeah.
I have never seen someone trust an opponent so much. Or, I mean, really, it has nothing to do with them because there's no way they're going to catch you.
Nope.
So, I mean, you're just diving onto someone's back.
Well, you do have to trust him enough to hit you, like, in literally the center of the shoulder blades. Otherwise, you run the risk of breaking their back.
The trust on both guys, I guess. It just
Unreal.
absolutely unreal.
Talk about a trust fall.
The crowd is at an absolute frenzy at this moment because Gargano's able to hit that suicide dive, like you said, but then Vega runs off of the apron,
Does a fucking hurricane.
Hurricanrana into the steps for Johnny Wrestling, and the crowd is like
They are
going berserk.
Yeah, they are into a frenzy now.
Because Andrade takes advantage. He pushes Johnny Wrestling into the ring, hits for the first time the hammerlock DDT, and a kick out.
And I remember
An eruption.
seeing that. That moment right there is what made this match like a 5 stars, 10 out of 10 for me.
So
just the beauty of the hammerlock DDT. First of all, the way that Andrade performs and Gargano takes the move is flawless beyond belief.
So I have a question for both of you. Have either of you ever sat down and watched the, quote, loudest pop in WWE history?
No?
It is at the January 4th, 99 episode of Raw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where Steve Austin comes out to help Mankind and the crowd just erupts. It's so loud you can't even hear. You can't hear Steve's music. You can't hear the pinfall. You can't hear the commentary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think this was a louder pop.
It was crazy.
It was pretty loud.
And it was probably a third the amount of people.
It was pretty loud. And it was one of those moments where you bought in that was the end of the match because it just made sense.
Oh, yeah.
Andrade, the evil heel, gets the assist from his evil manager. He hits his finish. You know, what a battle from Johnny Wrestling, but this is it.
But it can't be the end because we still have Candice LeRae who comes in and takes care of the Vega problem. Now the match resets. It's Andrade, it's Gargano, the Heart versus the Pride.
And at this point, I just once again looked to my right and said, they got him.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because nobody sits down until this match ends.
Oh, absolutely not. Everyone is on their feet.
They're on their feet. Oh, no, the minute that Johnny kicks out of the hammerlock DDT, everyone's on their feet. And they don't sit back down.
Now, back in the Gargano escape, Andrade is on his own to find a way out. And he does.
Rope break.
Gets a foot in the bottom rope.
Yep, rope break. And the crowd, you can hear them exhale, right? They're like, they're screaming for Andrade to tap. And it's that very much exactly what you did, Paul, was that,
Yeah, because they're like, that was his only chance.
that was it.
Because, I mean, this leads to the closing sequence.
Yeah, which, do you mind?
Go.
Go for it. I feel like I always do it. So
I just thought it was exceptional. Andrade baits Gargano onto the apron, which if you just stop and think about that, like a lot of people are just like, okay, well, they're fighting onto the apron, whatever. No. Andrade slithers his way onto the apron and baits Gargano there, and showing desperation, pushes Johnny into the huge LED post on the outside. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about innovation. Like those LED screen posts, that's a new thing. maybe in NXT it may have been around for several months at this point, but people are still finding new and innovative ways to use those.
Oh yeah, and I love innovation in wrestling.
And while he's there, Andrade delivers a huge double knee. The double knee that he's been trying to hit the whole damn match.
Oh, he hits it.
He hit it once before and it wasn't enough, but maybe on the LED post.
But
he gets
right,
it.
he hits it again, but at an added level.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely insane. Gets him back in the ring, and he sets Gargano up on the top to hit the biggest hammerlock DDT we've seen to this point, and the battle is over. Gargano is not able to conquer El Idolo.
And what's so interesting to me is it does two things. One, Johnny Wrestling, I mean, how could you not could you not be any more supportive and behind him in this journey, right? Like, you feel for him like you haven't felt for a wrestler since Daniel Bryan or something, right? But Andrade, not only did he win this match, but the closing sequence was without Zelina Vega. And, like, yeah, there were moments where Vega absolutely assisted in keeping that match alive. But he got it done on his own in the end. And to solidify Andrade as a champion in that way, I think says a lot.
I appreciated it a great deal.
Yeah, very much so. And Mauro says after the bell, you could not ask for more.
No.
And you're absolutely right. You could not ask for more. In my mind, we talk about a lot on this show. When we talk about Omega and Okada, we say that match is as close to perfect as you get in a wrestling ring.
Oh, yeah.
But when I watch this Almas Gargano match,
it's right there.
Find a flaw.
Right there with him.
Yeah,
There are no flaws.
It's really, really good.
And what I really appreciate about the story that they tell here with this Gargano loss is the underdog doesn't always have to make it to the top.
No.
For the story to be great. And that's exactly what this was.
Well, thankfully, Gargano does get his moment in the sun a few months later in New Orleans.
That is true. That's absolutely true. But something that I think NXT was really pretty solid at this time, sort of that 2016 to 2018 era, they were good at the slow burn.
Yes, and I am so grateful for that.
Yeah, and we get the slow burn with Johnny Wrestling. And, I mean, just a match that I'm so glad we were able to cover and review and relive. It obviously makes a lot of sense to do it now with El Idolo now being in AEW, and I love this being maybe his best moment while he was in the WWE, in the NXT brand, because this guy deserves any title that he gets, right?
Oh,
he deserves all the success.
He's so good
in wrestling
and
as a performer.
I get so pissed off people say he's overrated. I'm like, no, he's not. You just have not seen like what he is capable of yet.
Well, I said we reviewed it and relived it. I would like to ask favorite moments.
Oh my God.
I think just seeing the little things that both of these guys do that I've never seen before. The dive to someone's back.
Yeah.
Insane. And so many other moments just like that.
That's a King's Road move. That's not like a NXT modern day move.
Yeah, I think for me, and it's a moment we haven't actually brought up, but I just thought it was such an incredibly intelligent moment. Johnny Gargano is trying for the Gargano escape, and the way that Andrade is able to reverse the attempt is he hits a jawbreaker.
Yeah.
And I just never saw it coming. And I just was like, that is the most, it makes a ton of sense to try to break out in that way, but just a smart wrestling move. And I was thrilled by it.
Well, that just goes back to these guys know how to craft a good match. They know how to do things like that. That's so obvious. Why did nobody think about that before? I'm like, because it's not like the big flashy move. It's like, no, what's the simplest way to break
it doesn't have
this?
to be, is the thing. And they found so many little things to do in this match. And you know what? Vega and Candice LeRae were awesome too.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, deserve all the credit. Absolutely. You know, we talked about it that they don't overdo Candice LeRae, and it makes that moment mean so much when she jumps the barricade and is able to take on Vega, because you almost forget she's there. And they're able to sort of LeRae chases Vega out of the crowd to leave the two guys fighting in the ring, and they're no longer a distraction. But when Morrow, it's a family affair in Philadelphia, like it's not over dramatized to me.
No, it's not.
I think it makes sense. It makes sense.
I want to go back to what you said earlier. It's because they don't they mentioned Candice LeRae in the crowd early on, and they don't go back to her until she hops that barricade and attacks Selena.
Mm-hmm.
So they give that moment time to breathe, and you don't expect it.
I mean, the praise goes on for this match, right? And so we reviewed it, we relived it, and guys, I gotta tell you, after how challenging it was to rank Mankind Undertaker, I am not super confident going into this ranking portion of our episode, but I have promised myself that we will rank it on this episode.
So
We promise all of you.
yes, we will. We will. So when I was watching this, you know what match I kept thinking of? Nick Bockwinkel and Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
That is where my mind kept going, and I'm like, but this is such a different matchup. I think it's because that was also I wasn't expecting this. That they subverted expectations. Yes, they gave you what you were expecting by the end of it, but they made you wait for it. They earned all of the highs. They earned all of the near falls. They earned the falls. They earned them in that 32 and change they wrestled.
Hey, listen, Nick Bockwinkel was part of the Wrestle Rock Rumble, and that is all I care about.
He's also a 2007 Hall of Fame inductee.
He also looks like Martin Sheen, but that's another conversation for another time.
Yeah, if you want the full story behind what we feel about Nick Bockwinkel, his Hall of Fame induction,
so that's
listen to Last Mania Standing. We just recorded WrestleMania 23 when
all
he
grown
went
up
into the Hall of Fame.
So that's where my mind kind of started. I'm like, okay.
So for reference for everyone, that match is currently number 31 on our list.
Although I think this was a superior match, not because of in-ring, a lot of that just comes to just how much wrestling has changed and the 30-year difference between those two matches. And that can also come down to a preference thing. What do you prefer? Do you prefer long-form Broadways, or do you prefer slow burns to a decisive finish with an electric crowd and what may seem like a perfect storm?
My perfect match is a 60-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, that's all you. And 40 minutes of that are barricade spots.
Oh, good Lord. They didn't do a lot of barricade spots. Well, you talk about a hour-long Broadway, a draw. The next match that I thought of was Samoa Joe and Charles Montgomery Punk. So that's the next match I thought of. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I kind of want to break into the top teens with this. I did thoroughly enjoy it. And then I looked down a few matches, and I saw Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay and Walter and Tyler Bate. And I thought, I think I would put this in between those two.
So it would be the new number 16.
Yes, that
right
is
below Sabre Jr. and Ospreay, right above Walter and Tyler Bate.
Yes, I think that's where I would go. Now, once again, that's not a concrete. That is definitely a soft, water mix. I can be persuaded.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to fight for number 16. But that's just where my mind is going.
Where my mind went was the story that Mauro Ranallo compared it to, and that was Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. Currently at 44, and
I thought this was a much more compelling match.
I thought this was a much more compelling match too. I mean, that's where my brain wanted to start, just naturally. I think this match goes above and beyond what they did, went above and beyond, Undertaker, Jeff Hardy. If I'm crawling up Edge and Mick Foley, I get hung up around 41 with Jushin Thunder Liger versus Great Muta. I think that's at 41 for a reason. It's a standard bearer, and you've got to make it past that legendary match.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna interrupt you for just a half sec.
Please do it.
A match that is ranked above that at 39 is DIY versus Revival.
Yeah.
And you have been consistent in saying that you don't think it deserves that highest spot. So by putting it below Muta and Liger, you're saying that DIY Revival is better than this Gargano Almas match.
And I don't feel that way.
Absolutely
Exactly.
not.
Exactly.
But in my opinion, DIY Revival is ranked too high. So
what do you do?
It sounds like you changed the ranking of DIY Revival.
No, I can't do that because the ranking of DIY Revival has been placed there based on
it's already been
the
knocked
listener,
down like
based
twice.
on the listeners' suggested things that we move up on the list. So taking that into account, I think my range, Paul, is going to be more of the mid-30s to the 40s.
I mean, that's where I started. I mean,
Spencer, save us. Because I'm really stuck with this one.
Man, that's interesting. Paul, you said Samoa Joe CM Punk, and I like that comparison just because of the quality of a wrestling match that this is.
Oh, absolutely.
I do think, and I even compared it to Omega Okada, and I am not in any way saying that this is necessarily top 10 material.
I don't think so either.
But it's two of the very best wrestlers of this generation putting on a masterclass of professional wrestling, and I think that's worth something. I think that is worth something. It's a takeover stage the same weekend as the Royal Rumble. It's not the biggest stage of all time, but it was a big point in both of these men's careers.
I think like 22,000 people in the crowd.
Yeah. So I would not be as low as Landon in the 30s to 40s. I think when I look at this list and I think of a good place to put this match, I actually sit it at number 23, which is right below Shinsuke Nakamura and Kota Ibushi from Wrestle Kingdom 9 and right above Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One of them is I think the further up you go on the list past Nakamura and Ibushi, you're reaching legendary status. You're reaching these all-time stories, these all-time characters, and these sort of moments that will live for a really, really long time. And I think this Almas Gargano match will as well. But part of what keeps it from going higher for me is that I think the best is yet to come.
Oh, absolutely.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, these guys are both very young, and they're going to go on to have big matches like this.
But the quote from Morrow at the end of the match, when he says, "You could not ask for more," he's absolutely right. And I feel like this match could not. I don't know how it could have been better. Like I think I don't either. They crushed it as much as you can crush the main event of a major pay-per-view. And so I would settle at 23. That's me personally. That's where I would settle.
I can't find an argument against it.
It's difficult to argue against 23. I mean, I definitely couldn't see myself going any higher than that. Mm-hmm. I'd be more comfortable around the 30 mark, because I'm looking at matches like Trish Stratus versus Lita, just totally changing the game for what wrestling could be. Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. You have Ishii and Shibata at 27. It's really tough for me to go above that. But if you two are in agreement, I'm going to have to concede.
No, I mean, that's an interesting point. Those are the question here then is what is the legacy of this Gargano Almas match?
That's the question.
I think the legacy of this match, and this is just my personal opinion, is that in 2018, when wrestling is 100 false finishes, a bunch of near falls, and we're going to hit our finisher 7 times because that happened in a main event match literally 2 months later, that we can tell a different story. We can take our time and build up to an amazing finish. And not only is it going to be, arguably, not only is it going to be by far the best match of the night, it's going to be a match that's going to be remembered for years to come. I think this is one of the this is the perfect example of a match that I would suggest people getting into wrestling watch.
Sure. Yeah.
Study this.
But I think that it's a diamond in the rough. I feel like there are still a lot of matches that go to the well one too many times with the near falls. And this is the template for how to not do that.
Exactly.
And so can you say that it has the legacy to where it changed the game when people are still making the mistakes? I don't know.
So the legacy, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, I don't think it's quite hit that legacy point yet. I feel
it's
like
too soon.
It's too soon, and I feel like it's a match that people may have not forgotten about. But it's a match that I would urge people to go back and rewatch because...
Yeah, if you're sitting there wondering why we've got this thing in the 30s, go watch it because it's incredible.
the 30s would, just so everyone's clear, this is match 67. That would put it in the top half of our list so far,
absolutely.
Which is a big deal. But to me, the legacy question might not be, does it change the way wrestling finishes are had, or does it change near falls or whatever?
No, I don't think it does that. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, especially as Andrade is really hitting the stride of his career. He's really starting to come into his own, because we forget he is so young.
Mm-hmm.
He is not an old person at all. Johnny is also on the younger side as well. I mean, these guys both got into the business in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
At very young. I mean, Andrade was 14 when he broke in. I think Johnny was maybe 19 or 20. He was also very young, and this match is only 3 years old.
The legacy question for me is whether you like NXT now or not or whatever. I think it's, to me, undeniable that they have given us some all-timers, some really incredible matches throughout the course of NXT's history. And where does this one fall on that list?
It would be right up there at the top for me.
Yeah, if you're making a top 5 best NXT matches of all time,
absolutely.
Where does this land? Because
top 5.
If you look at our list, you've got Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate from NXT TakeOver Chicago sitting at 8. You've got Walter Tyler Bate from NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, right? And then you've got NXT TakeOver Toronto DIY Revival. Those are the top 3 NXT matches that we have in our list so far. So out of those 3, I think this is better than DIY Revival.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it hits Walter Tyler Bate. Those matches actually to me are kind of similar. In the fact that they get plenty of time, they tell a great story over at this point what is a very legitimate title,
Sure, yeah.
So for me, I would fall somewhere between Walter and DIY Revival, and so I fell at 23. But Landon, I think you made some really, really good points about the legacies of things like Trish Stratus and Lita. I would probably put it over Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit.
Yeah,
personally.
I was thinking I'd probably put it at 29.
So I would be okay with 29.
I would be very comfortable with 29.
There it is. 29.
You heard it here first, folks.
Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano, NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, is the 29th greatest wrestling match of all time.
Through 7?
7. Yeah.
Through 67. I'm losing count. We have so many episodes on this podcast.
And when you factor in trivia episodes, Patreon stuff,
yeah,
the Last Man Standing, Welcome to the Elite, we have probably done 200 episodes.
of content total, maybe
plenty of content for you guys out there, absolutely. And if you're new to the show, we're recording this today is July something of 2021. It's something like that. July.
If that doesn't
July
just sum
11th.
up our lives.
yeah. Today is July 11th in terms of recording date. You might be listening to this 2 years from now. I have no idea. We are grateful to have you, whether you're listening to this the day it comes out or 2 years from that. Thanks so much for joining us. And again, definitely reach out to us on Twitter, on Facebook, via email at LastMatchCast and all that stuff. We would love to hear from you because you are what makes this show work, and you are what makes this show so much fun for us. And to be able to relive matches like Almas and Gargano and do this deep dive, worth it. A 10 out of 10.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So plenty of great stuff coming up for the rest of Season 4. Cannot wait.
Joshi.
Cannot wait to get the rest of Season 4 for you. And it's all building towards a Season 4 finale that we're not even close to starting to hint at yet. But let me tell you something. It's a good one. It is a good one.
It's one that Spencer's been waiting for.
Me? Yeah, absolutely it is.
I will say this. It's a match that gets a standing ovation.
It certainly does.
Until episode 68, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.